Bubba Wallace's NASCAR team, 2311 Racing, owned by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamiln, has responded to Bubba Wallace's one-race suspension at Homestead Miami Speedway this weekend for the intentional crash of Kyle Larson during the playoff race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And believe it or not, it might not be the response that you might have been expecting from the team. Yes, we will be talking Bubba because, frankly, the entire world seems like it's talking about Bubba right now. But we also need to talk a few IndyCar things because there was some pretty significant things that seem to come down the pike and break, or at least things you've already heard on this channel and suddenly everybody else decided to start picking up on it. And it begins with, you wouldn't believe it, the Alex Palou saga. Yes, it has taken another turn. Now, if you watched my Indy 500 entry list video, and if you haven't already, you should totally watch it. But I talked about in that video the fact that NTT, one of the principal sponsors at Chip Ganassi Racing, left the team. Now here's the rest of the story. So today it came to light that NTT got poached by Arrow McLaren SP. Yep, really. That's a thing that has happened in real life. It is not a meme. Zach Brown, Arrow McLaren SP, and Chip Ganassi Racing still having beef. But it gets even more crazy because they were planning from the start, NTT was, to leave Chip Ganassi Racing with Alex Palou. So, dots begin to get connected all over the place. The fact that the seemingly unbelievable fact that Alex Palou could leave Chip Ganassi Racing is even more unbelievable now that NTT was leaving with him. What's crazy is that NTT will be on an Arrow McLaren SP car next year, but they will not be with their driver, Alex Palou, at least until 2024. For the 2023 season, you'll see NTT at Arrow McLaren and Alex Palou at Chip Ganassi Racing, because I can only assume that out of spite for not only leaving the team under the circumstances in which he tried to, but also taking one of the principal sponsors with him, Chip Ganassi has kept Alex Palou at Chip Ganassi Racing. Though there have been concessions, as you guys know. Alex Palou has been testing with the McLaren F1 team and will actually get an opportunity this weekend in FP1 with the proper McLaren Formula One team at Circuit of the Americas. So Alex Palou didn't totally lose out here for sure, but as things have played out and the way they have played out, this story, I can't believe we're sitting here in October and this story continues to grow legs and continues to get even more wild. And by the way, the thing that I told you guys about recently, which is that Nicholas Latifi is the front runner, if not already signed at Chip Ganassi Racing for their fourth full-time car. And it's pretty funny that Nicholas Latifi, the F1 journos picked up on this throughout the world. And Nicholas Latifi trended today on Twitter, which I just found so funny. Because all of these F1 publications, and thank you guys for using, for crediting me for sure, but they were sharing a video that's called Tony Stewart Clowns on NASCAR. And that's what they were using as their source to talk about Nicholas Latifi going to Chip Ganassi Racing, which I believe is a done deal, by the way. I also believe it's a full-time car. There was an interesting nugget in an article that Marshall Pruitt wrote today for Racer Magazine that said that Jimmy Johnson is expected in a fifth Ganassi car. So that's interesting to me. And that would also back up what I was told when I found out about Nicholas Latifi, is that my source told me that Latifi would more than likely be a full-time driver. They wouldn't be doing a fourth car for Nicholas Latifi if he wasn't full-time at Chip Ganassi Racing. The other interesting nugget I have about Alex Palou is that apparently he had been shopping around his wares, meaning he was trying to find another ride other than Chip Ganassi, as early as April at Long Beach. Yeah. So this had pretty much started from, the third or fourth race in the IndyCar season. Just unbelievable. The audacity, as you might say if you were in New Jersey. But this story has been probably the craziest one of the year, in my opinion. I don't think anyone has topped it. The amount of heavy hitters, sponsors, and drivers involved in this thing, it's crazy. And I think it's going to continue to be crazy. Maybe not as crazy as it has been in 2022, but in 2023, as we begin to see all these pieces continue to sort themselves out. Alex Palou heading to Arrow McLaren, what's that going to do? Good Lord. It's a whole mess. All right, let's talk about Bubba Wallace. So, we know that he was suspended for intentionally wrecking Kyle Larson. 1 race suspension, Homestead Miami Speedway, which is this weekend. Now, I had theorized that 23XI Racing would potentially appeal this penalty because of the fact that the appeals process in NASCAR has been pretty boned recently, and usually a team that appeals the penalty gets a reduction in the severity of the penalty. However, 23XI Racing posted this statement. 23XI is aligned with NASCAR on the 1 race suspension issued to Bubba, and we understand the need for the series to take a clear stand on the incidents that took place at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Bubba's actions are not in keeping with the values of our team and our partners, and we have spoken to Bubba and expressed our disapproval of how he handled the situation. Bubba has made impressive strides this season, and this is an experience and an opportunity for him to further learn and grow as a competitor in NASCAR. And if you didn't know already, as a result of the penalty, John Hunter Nemechek will drive the number 45 Toyota at Homestead Miami Speedway. Now, perhaps I had a bit of a dumb moment when I thought that 23XI would potentially appeal the 1 race suspension that Bubba Wallace incurred yesterday. Because if you think about it, who has been one of the most outspoken critics of the next-gen car and its safety? Denny Hamlin. Who's the team owner at 23XI Racing? Denny Hamlin. Who's probably going to have a zero-tolerance policy? Oh, yeah. Who got wrecked by William Byron intentionally under caution? Denny Hamlin. Who lost his driver early because of safety issues with the next-gen car? Denny Hamlin. You see what I'm saying? So the fact that 23XI came out and is in support of the 1 race suspension doesn't surprise me very much. And there's a narrative forming that I'm actually, I've always been in favor of because I said it pretty much from the get-go. But the narrative that I'm seeing the mainstream media is beginning to catch up to, which I've, again, been ahead of the curve on, is that I said from the very start that they should have sat Bubba Wallace for the remainder of the NASCAR season, which is only like 3 races. But I thought that the punishment fit the crime in that case. Now, as we saw, they did actually suspend him, but only for 1 race. I was surprised that NASCAR went that far, to be honest with you. Kyle Petty had a great segment on the NBC Sports Motor Mouths show that kind of laid it out in a way that I didn't even think to lay it out, is that Bubba really should have gotten 1 race for each of the things that he did. Not only do you intentionally wreck Kyle Larson, that's 1 race, but he also said that he walked across an active racetrack, which has been illegal in NASCAR since the Kevin Ward Jr. and Tony Stewart thing, which took place at a dirt race and didn't have to take place at a NASCAR race. But yes, Bubba Wallace broke that rule, so potentially a suspension there. They suspended a crew member at Talladega for walking onto an active racetrack to retrieve a tire, so there's a bit of precedent there. And number 3, Kyle Petty said for fighting Kyle Larson after the wreck, after intentionally wrecking him, walking across the track with the intention of fighting Kyle Larson, who you may have injured or concussed. Yeah, that to me says 3 races. I don't totally think that, you shouldn't totally outlaw fighting because that's a slippery slope in NASCAR. But I think thinking about it that way, if you've intentionally wrecked a guy and he's just gotten out of the car, and we know how long it took for, say, Alex Bowman to identify his concussion, Bubba Wallace coming out there and throwing punches and shoving him against the car, that could aggravate an existing brain injury. Like there's a reason why when a guy gets knocked out of a boxing match that you don't stand him back up and immediately start having the guy who knocked him out start swinging more punches. Like, because that's how you really get bad brain damage. And I'm not saying that Bubba was going there with any, necessarily ill intents. I mean, I don't think nothing crazy, right? I think he was just in the heat of the moment. There's no doubt about it. And I think there's been a few compilations that I've seen recently of Bubba Wallace and his temper, incidents that I didn't even know about. This does seem like it's a bit of a problem for Bubba Wallace. So, while I was shocked when I saw it initially, it does seem like it's a little bit par for the course for him. I would be curious if there's any kind of off-season like anger management or anything that the team makes him do, because clearly the team is in favor of the punishment that NASCAR has handed down. Now, it's lighter than I think a lot of people thought it should have been, but I think it was heavier than I think a lot of us thought it would be. So very interesting situation right now, that's for sure. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more motorsport content, and I'll see you in the next video.